Science grows when it is taken beyond the laboratory into communities where learnings, ideas, and experiences are shared and new possibilities emerge. That's why, with the motto Engaging Communities, Enabling Change, India Bioscience strives to foster the Indian life sciences community, providing a platform on which academia, government, industry, and the general public can engage at various levels. Workshops like Crafting Your Career, skill building workshops, and grants awareness programs can help you navigate the life sciences ecosystem and plan the next steps in your career. And our podcast and webinar channels, India Biospeaks and India Biostreams, involving a diversity of topics and speakers, open doors to the areas of education, research, funding, policy, industry, and the wider scientific landscape. In pursuit of creating and curating excellent and relevant resources for life scientists in India, India Bioscience extensively partners with experts, agencies, and institutions, both national and international, bringing to you a vibrant community where new possibilities take shape and develop. Dive deeper into all this. Stay updated about jobs, grants, and events, the latest cutting-edge research in the field, the stalwarts at the helm of the field, and the lives of the people behind the research. Share stories, engage in the rich culture and community of the life sciences in India, and find out how you can help change the world. Explore India Bioscience. Stay engaged to enable change.
Hello everybody. Welcome to the 6th session of the Crafting Your Career online seminar series. Today's session is the last one in the Crafting Your Career series, and it is going to be an interactive panel discussion. And we will delve into issues that are very critical to one's career development but are seldom spoken about. These includes topics like professional career guidance cells, common skill gaps in hiring, and the best ways to handle career transitions, setbacks, and importantly, failures. But before we dive in, let me just check with one of the panelists if my audio is clear.
Yes, Sule.
Thank you. Thank you, Smita. Just a brief note about this webinar. In case you're having any problems participating through Zoom, this webinar is also being live streamed on YouTube and can be seen from India Bioscience website as well. Both these links will be shared with you shortly via the chat box. With that, let's just go over some ways in which you can participate and interact in today's session. So there are two ways to do so. The first one is through the chat box. The chat box will be disabled for you, but throughout the session, we will be sharing various links and resources through the chat box. The second one is the Q&A box, where you will be able to type in your questions, and we will try to put them across to the panelists. So please make sure that you type in any relevant questions that you may have throughout the session. You also have an option to send your questions anonymously if you wish to do so. And And on the screen, you see the team that is joining today. So I am Zile, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. Shantala is the co-host. For those of you who are joining through YouTube, Manjula is moderating the session there. So please participate from YouTube and send us your questions and interact there. Smita and Shreya will be moderating today's session. Apart from this, we also have wonderful panelists, Sandhya Kaushika, who is an associate professor at Tata Institute of Fundamental Research in Mumbai. Satya Prakash Dash, who is the founding member and former head of strategy at BIRAC and board member at Venture Center Pune. And we also have with us Suman Govil, who was a scientist and senior advisor to Department of Biotechnology, Government of India. So thank you for joining us today's webinar. With that, I'm going to launch an audience poll. And for those of you who are joining us through Zoom, you should be able to see the poll on your screens now. For those of you who are on YouTube, Manjula will share a Google form through which you can vote. I'll give 30 seconds for this. It's just one question. We want to know whom are we talking to today? Who are you? So I see 42% have voted. So I'm going to let this poll run for another 5 seconds. I'm ending the poll now, and you should be able to see the results on your screen. So we have a large chunk of you are bachelor's and master's students, and we're very excited to have you. We also have PhD students, researchers, some JRFs, educators, and other science professionals. Thank you for joining us. We are excited to have you. Welcome again. With that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I just want to make a small announcement before I pass on to my colleague Smita, that we have some announcements to make at the end. So please do stay with us till the end. We think that these will be very relevant and resourceful for you. So over to you, Smita. Thank you.
Thanks, Zile. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So welcome everyone, welcome panelists. And I guess before I start shooting questions to the star panelists today, I just want to, say a few things about career. This word career actually generate some very mixed feelings, some feeling of joy, feeling of confusion most of the time. At least for me, that was the case and still is at times. At times, it's a very neutral feeling. But what is really important is, and what is, we have been interacting with a large number of students over last few years with respect to career related workshops. And what I've understood and felt is that if you understand that this is a lifelong journey that requires loads of passion, loads of hard work, loads of perseverance in order to derive happiness and contentment, you are good. And you don't have to worry too much about other things. And as Zile mentioned in the opening remarks, we thought that in today's panel discussion, we'll touch upon some of these really key issues pertaining to career, starting from career development journey to skill gaps that exist, the role that the ecosystem can play in nurturing these career journeys, and then last but not the least, twists and turns that happen as we go along this journey. So with that, what we are going to do is kind of divide this whole session into 4 chunks. And the first session will be on career development journey, and I'm going to ask questions to our invited panelists. And my only request is that let's stick to time. I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions coming in from the audience, so I would want to keep this short, ask questions. I also once again request all the panelists to keep the answers crisp, short, and we would really want lots of questions to come in so that this is a very engaging session. Okay, so let's start. And the first question, Satya, I would like to ask you. This is, and I guess most of us deal with this, that when is the right time, especially as a student, when is the right time to choose a career path? Is it 10th, 12th, post-college, post-PhD? When? And when is the right time to start thinking about career development?
Okay, 2 minutes I know, but let me say 30 seconds for thank you. Really thank you and India Bioscience team for having all of us here. No matter how many times I do webinars or being on stage, I still have wet hands sometimes, and it's quite natural, right? So that's one thing I wanted to convey. It's just that nervousness is always there, whether it is career or whether you are on stage, right? And that's how do you deal with that nervousness is very important. Also, I wanted to say one thing, that each career is unique. There's no laws of thermodynamics here, right? Everybody charts their own ways. There are some patterns that you can see, you can learn, and it's a kind of a continuous occurrences of serendipity, chances. All of that kind of makes us a lived experience that we are going to talk about, right? And so the short and sweet answer to the question about when is the right time is actually today, now, anytime. The answer is yes. And I just wanted to also put in a couple of more words and phrases that I love. Crafting is amazing. It's a great phrase. Sculpting is another one. Chiseling is another one. I work with a lot of startups. So prototyping is another word. And all of that taken together makes a career. So the answer is yes. And there is a right time, and the right time is today.
Right. Sandhya, Dr. Govil, any one of you want to add a point here?
Yeah, absolutely agree with Satya, earlier the better. Generally in India, normally, we try to acquire our educational qualifications and then only think about career and jobs. So maybe if we do it the other way around, if we have clarity about, what are our goals going to be and what we want to be, what we like to do and what we don't like to do. So sort of evaluating yourself and based on your interest and passion, the word Smita used very passionately. So if you know what you're passionate about, what you like to do, and also what you don't like to do, what you don't want to do, if you have that kind of clarity and then, choose subjects and courses accordingly, maybe it will be better, and earlier the better. So sooner you start, better it is going to be.
Okay. So, Sandhya, I guess my next question is, regarding major challenges. We all kind of said that sooner the better, but the major challenge that students mostly face is especially, lack of awareness of career paths. The stigma that's attached, especially when they decide to move out of the traditional career paths, which at some point was tagged alternate, but we at India Bioscience and now generally, that's a word that no one prefers to use. These are basically science careers. So what, according to you, are the major challenges that students face, and what can be done in order to counter these?
So I have pretty strong feelings about this, as you know, Smita, because I think I've had a variety of students leave from my lab and do different things.
Right.
I think it's very important to normalize the fact that there are careers in science, and not all science careers are research careers. I think three things which are often sort of difficult for students to, and they face, each of them face, is understanding what skills they need and what they lack, knowledge of the career paths themselves. And I'll just briefly say here, if for anybody who hasn't attended the earlier sessions, science careers are, of course, academic, largely research. They can be academic, where it's largely teaching at university or college levels. But it can also be academic, teaching school. You have industry research careers, you have science writing, where you can write for companies, writing technical stuff, science communication, intellectual property, and these research management. There are a vast variety of careers. The underlying ecosystem which supports some of this is research and education, and I think that is also something that needs to be recognized. And the final thing which students lack is contacts or knowledge. If they have a few people that they want to approach, knowledge of even how to approach them. I think these are things which should be addressed during training by various mentors and teachers or institutional mechanisms. And I think it would reassure students and give them the courage to try. I would like to say one thing about the previous question. And I think in this, I come from a place where I have seen young people who are not sure and are not necessarily passionate, but they like something. So, I want to give a counter view to it's never too early to plan, which is, of course, very useful and often the recommended path, because then you know where you're headed and you can try. It is okay to go with the flow and to sort of slowly develop your directions. I don't think you should feel pressured if you don't know right now what you want to do. I think it's very good, which the previous speaker said, is if you can identify what you don't like, that's also, I think I call it as a positive choice versus a negative choice, but there needs to be some basis for decision making. But even if you go with the flow, do not forget to reflect at critical junctures what is right for you.
Yeah.
And this is very important. I'll just say one sentence because we have a lot of undergrad and master students. You should ask yourself, in the science careers that I'm interested in, is the PhD the immediate right step? Is that something we can do a couple of years later after we try out something? Or maybe you spend half a year trying out some kind of internship intensively? That is a question that it is worthwhile asking yourself, instead of saying, oh, this is the next obvious step and I take it. Do reflect at critical junctures.
I guess that's a very valid point, Sandhya, that you have made. Especially, I really like the word normalize. I guess if people understand, that really would help take away a lot of stress that comes along with these decisions. So I guess let's move on to the next question, and that's to Dr. Govil. We were talking, Sandhya touched upon various different career paths, and I guess what can be done, because that's another major issue, that students are not aware of the variety of career paths that are available in today's world, other than the traditional career paths. So what can be done in order to bring awareness, confidence, that yes, we can navigate into these and carve a successful story out of it? Okay.
Actually, internationally, there are lots of resources available, like there are career support groups and STEM peers, and Cheeky Scientist Association is there, NIH jobs and nature jobs. So information is available, but India-centric information is mostly by and large lacking. other than India Bioscience efforts. In fact, last several years, I'm an ardent follower. So they've been doing lots of podcast series and also these seminar series, online, offline, both versions. And of course, we had a book, Disha, under the India Bioscience. So basically, why these students are not aware? Because generally the academicians, the teachers encourage students to do good science. They tell them, publish good papers, everything else will fall in place. Of course, it will fall in place, but you may, need to do something else other than good science, in addition to good science. So maybe the students need to be more proactive and a little bit more creative and innovative. Try to diversify and acquire as many skills possible while doing your BSc or MSc or even PhD. So, take up an additional certificate course or non-credit course, whether it is run by your management school or a course on intellectual property rights or technology transfer. Do some internships, do some projects, do some voluntary assignments. This will also help you evaluate whether you like that job. If I do a research project, I will know that whether I'm cut out for this, and if I'm not, then that is the right time perhaps to diversify. So it will help me evaluate my own interests, and also what I know and what I don't know. So what skill gaps I have. So if I'm not good in communication, maybe oral or written, so maybe I need to do something about it. So they can do some courses like courses, and maybe join the college magazine editing or some newsletter editing, journal editing. So they can try to enhance their skills. So they can value add and diversify, so that when they are ready for a job, then they have all the requisite skills. So that is one way to go ahead.
I guess, yeah, I completely agree with the point that you have made, Dr. Govil. It's one, lot of information is available, and second, one can diversify, one can gain a lot of skills as during their formative years when the decision has not been taken. Satya, would you want to add more to that?
Yeah, I said it's lived experiences, and I think to Sandhya's and Dr. Govil's point, the more you immerse yourself in different things, see, passion doesn't land, doesn't drop from the sky, right? So, and I've always struggled with, early on, what is it? Because I love this, I love that, right? So you need to do a couple of things, and then finally, passion will knock at your doorstep, and then you grab that, and then you run with it. And transitions are difficult, as I wrote in the other thing. Let me remind my, all our participants. When we talk about mystery books, right, or detective books, who comes to our mind? Sherlock Holmes, right? And Arthur Conan Doyle is a doctor by training. Okay, he grew up in Edinburgh, and he did medicine, right? But no, we do not know that fact, right? So, we're talking about different careers. So here is a doctor who is actually a writer, right? And so this has happened for many centuries. It's nothing new, but things have changed. To Dr. Govil and Sandhya's point, a lot of massification of education has happened. A lot of people are getting into undergrad, postgrad degrees, and then finally it's a very sharp cone for academic careers, right? So what lies outside, you have to understand as well. And the power is with your mobile phones. Information is there. Check out, and you have to sacrifice something, right? You will have to give time to understand that. One of my friends here, he's actually listening in. His LinkedIn profile says rebooting. Okay, and he's rebooting. He's very he's young, so rebooting is difficult. All of that needs a lot of information to be on the table, as both Dr. Govil and Sandhya have mentioned.
Yeah, no, I guess I completely agree. And I would want to reiterate this fact that passion doesn't fall from sky. You only with experience, only when you experience multiple different things, at the end you will find out what you really like, what you really enjoy, what gives you that satisfaction, right? So Sandhya, do you want to add something here, or we move on to questions?
I think we've sort of looked at this whole spectrum, and my experience with working with younger people is essentially when I coordinated the master's program, and I often find young people, um, talented young people, sort of immerse themselves in one thing. And I always think that the best thing is to sometimes lift your head and look at the horizon.
Yes.
You never know what you'll discover. You might discover what you like is absolutely what you like, and then you will recognize the struggles that you have with it as just struggles, not something which crushes you. So it's always good to lift your head and look at what's there in the horizon and see yourself as someone who has things to offer, not as someone who does not have anything to offer. And I think that is a very important message that all of us need to internalize, both as mentors and as trainees, that everybody has something to offer. They need to find a way to bring that forward and to sort of enhance those skills. And lifting your head up and seeing what's out there, very useful.
Good, thanks. Shreya, do we have questions that you would want to take up now? Maybe,
Yes.
For 4 to 5 minutes.
Yes, Mita. So I see that all of you are sending your questions in, and that's really great to see. And some of these questions will be answered in, I guess, our subsequent sessions, and we will take them up then. Right now, I think we can take just a couple of questions. So Himanish is asking, how can someone anticipate or predict their strength for various jobs or skills or research skills? And I think this is something that many people starting out have trouble doing. So maybe I'll ask Satya, would you like to comment on this?
Okay. No, thanks, Shreya. Anticipation sensing is very important, right? And you can only sense when you roll up your sleeves and do things, right? You can only start swimming once you are in the swimming pool, right? So, and I think that's the reason why. And it's, I work with thousands of startups, and definitely, with a handful of startups led by amazing people. And all of them have, that curiosity to solve problems, roll up sleeves and attack the problem, and the humility to say that, what, I'm not able to solve it. How do I seek help, right? And I think, as I grow old, hopefully that humility increases. But as a young person, I thought, I can solve the world's problem all by myself. And I think here I'll definitely say to, Sandhya's point, having people who can listen to you and also give you constructive criticism and actually, talk to you, convey to you what they see, whether it's in the lab setting or work setting, whatever it is very important, right? And as I said, it's a series of serendipitous things. So having such people is very interesting, and that's for maybe Smita later we can talk about mentoring and what is mentoring. But
yeah, that's a point we will be touching.
I've been blessed with people who have given their time to me to discuss. Even now, I'm inching closer toward 50, but still I pick up a phone and I need to talk to somebody what I'm going to do. Okay.
Yeah. So that support structure is very important, and we will be discussing this later in one of our sections. Very quickly, we'll take one more question and then we'll move on to the next section. We'll have more questions after that. So Shashwat is asking, as PhD students, we seem to be under a lot of uncertainty, also due to a shortage in academic jobs. So is it a wise decision to pursue careers outside academia because of shortage of such jobs? And I guess I would want to expand this a little about into what goes into this decision to whether you want to stay in academia or not. And as a student, what should be the primary considerations before making that decision? So I guess I'll come to you first, Sandhya, and then maybe we can also hear from Dr. Govil on this.
Well, this is actually something very near and dear to my heart. And I would say that if you really like research, continue in it as long as you want. But as I said, lift your head up, see what else is out there, and make sure that you are a small portion of your time you're spending to look at those options and maybe explore something that you also like. It never hurts to hedge your bets, but there's absolutely no reason you need to feel disheartened. I can tell you, as a person who's in the academic career, when I was doing my PhD, or when I was doing my postdoc, or when I look at young people who want to apply for a faculty position, actually, in India, at least, the number of faculty positions have increased vastly compared to when I was applying. And it's always been difficult. So, don't prevent yourself from doing it. If that's what you enjoy, go and do it, okay? But keep a little side of your time open so that you're exploring other things. In the end, you must do what you like. Now, if you don't like the path of this research and just doing the same thing again and again, repeating 100 mini preps, I often tell my students that you can't really be excited about running your 1000th gel. Okay, you sort of have this delayed gratification that you'll get some interesting result, and you may not, and that's just what research is. So if you feel that that path is right for you, stick with it. Don't run away from it, but don't acknowledge what the difficulties are so that you have a plan B. And it's always good to have a plan B. Even at my age, I think of plan B, and I have a job for several more years, but plan B, good to do.
Very true, Sandhya. And Dr. Govil, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I think students should also think that research is done not only in academic institutions or universities or research institutions. So even industries have an R&D wing, and to bring whatever new products, whatever diagnostic kit or vaccines you are thinking to bring out in the market, ultimately we need to go to the industries. So industries are also doing interesting work. So please keep that option open. And as Smita rightly said, we should not think that academics is the only option. So interesting, innovative work is being done outside academic institutions also. So explore. Keep the options open. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. And especially because, opportunities are limited. And there are, I think, 18 other career options which we have listed other than academic and research in academic institutions. So quite a few of them are very interesting. So without knowing about them, do not discard. So learn about them, know their expectations, see whether you fulfill their expectations, whether it is mutually, beneficial, whether you are also going to give something to them and also get something in return. So explore that option. And then if you don't like, it is never a dead end. So there is always, possibility to come back. Because several students I have met during the stay at DBT, they feel that once they join an industry, they cannot come back, which is not true. Which is not true. So they can always come back. So explore an option, don't discard an option without trying.
Absolutely. And
I just want to add one example. I'm sorry, Shreya, to jump in here, but when she said vaccine, I just realized if you look at mRNA vaccines, which are so successful in fighting COVID-19, academic funding was not very robust for that, for that entire line of research. And finally, after that paper came out, it went into the private sector where people were doing research in a company. So, it can be extremely impactful. And I think one needs to recognize that. And thank you, Dr. Govil, for pointing that out. research does not happen only in academic environments, and there can be really interesting things happening elsewhere too.
Let me quickly make a 30 seconds intervention, Shreya. Sorry. I will bat for startups. I work with 4 of them intensely now: Pandorum, Cygenica, Cytal, Nerd Tools, both of, some biotech, some edtech. With a science and engineering degree, you can be in startups doing cutting edge research, as well as, in Cytal, for example, we needed science postdocs and PhD who could develop content, science content for our schools, right?
Yeah.
For Pandorum and Cygenica, we need R&D scientists trained in master's and PhD levels. And they are waiting for you to knock at their doors, right? So there you go. I guess, the possibilities are endless.
Yes, and on that note, I think this is the perfect way to transition into the next section, which is going to be about skill gaps when one wants to transition. And Smita, the stage is yours.
Thanks, Shreya. I guess, as Shreya pointed out, perfect way to transition. And we all keep talking that there are opportunities, a large number of opportunities around. People are looking for, good fits. It's just that because of the skill gap or lack of awareness, we don't find good people. And that's where I guess my first question, Sandhya, I would want to ask to you is that what do you think are the most common skill gaps that are observed, post an academic degree, master's or PhD, and what one can do in order to change that?
I think, in my experience, and by no means is it as vast as Dr. Govil's and seeing the full spectrum of what is there in India, but what I noticed that there are key things which students struggle with, even after a PhD and definitely even after research masters. One is being able to write succinctly and well, and to convey their ideas with clarity. So I think communication skills are things which need honing and sharpening, and one should take every advantage to do so. So I always encourage PhD students to write their own papers, and not just the first draft, but then write the whole thing. Take it through the whole process, because what you're going to learn is invaluable, even if it takes time, and you have to invest that time to develop it. The other thing is time management, and especially as people get older, life is much more complex. And so that is something you need to invest time. And I think many people struggle with that transition, because once you go out and you work in industry or in other sectors, you are working in a much more time-bound manner, and sometimes under pressure. I think management skills, managing money, managing people, working with people, that's working well towards a common goal where you have shared interests and say, no, we are going to bring this, and delivering on a timeline. I think what happens often in at least in a PhD training or a traditional research training, it's so much about what that individual is doing in academic environments and what their thesis is, and what their thought process is that these other skills are sometimes left behind, but you need to get trained in them. It doesn't come automatically for everybody. Okay, the ability to switch between projects, because it's, you will often find, and it certainly happens to a faculty member as well, but for people who start stepping out of a traditional academic environment to going into industry or going into any other place, you have to switch between projects. You're not going to work on only one thing, right? You're going to have multiple things that you have to juggle, apportion time to, and do well. And somewhere in all of this, you need to take care of yourself too, and you can't forget that. So I think these are the 3 big gaps. And of course, typically when you go into the research path, whichever research path that you go into, technical training and in-depth training in one area, of course, those are technical skills you're bringing with you. But I think that a PhD training or an intensive master's research training teaches you many more things. And as I said, it's very important to see yourself as enabled and don't feel disheartened, right? Because I often feel students, especially when they don't see the end in sight in their PhD, or they feel that they're not getting the admission they wanted post their masters. You have learned what it means to work on long-term projects. You know what it means to learn something in depth. You have got the beginnings of good problem solving skills. You hopefully have some beginnings with working with different people, but that might need honing. You've learned what it means to work closely under supervision of someone, but hopefully also to communicate with that someone. So it's not just a directive thing, you know. Sir ne bola, madam ne bola, मैं करता हूँ या करती हूँ, right? So you've learned those things, hopefully.
Yeah.
You've also learned, and don't diss this, this is very important, your ability to take and act on criticism, which is really the foundation on which a lot of academic training is based. Because you go up and you present something, people critique you.
Yeah.
And so, and that's very important, because I think having that skill with you allows you to grow when you go out of wherever you are and you face new situations. You learn resilience to failure, dealing with uncertainty, very important skill which many people lack, and one which Satya mentioned, the ability to find the mentors.
Yeah, and
think
I guess
that's
that
I end with this. That's
no,
fine.
Sandhya, we will anyways be talking about mentors a little later down the line. But
Yeah.
I guess all the science graduates, it's loads of qualities, loads of skills that Sandhya just narrated that each one of you actually have, and that awareness that you have these skill sets is what is very, very critical. So Satya, I guess what I would want to ask you is that I know industry is looking for, good resource, but there's always this gap that exists, and folks in industry are always kind of, I would say, complaining that, we don't find good people. What is the reason? What is the skill gap that is out there, and what can be done to change that?
Okay. The word gap always reminds me, I lived for 10 years in England. So whenever you used to go to London Tube, it says mind the gap, right? Because there was this space between the platform and the tube coach, right? So you didn't want your foot to go into, in that crack. And exactly, mind the gap, right? And I will tell you, this is one of my pet peeves, okay, this skill gap, because as I'm working with some fantastic companies, right, I said 4 of them, and we interview people, and we're doing that right now, like, for the last many months, whether it is Pandorum that's working on exosomes, or Cygenica on drug delivery, or Cytal on content development, and, all of that. So, when I step back and I look at it, I said, okay, so what are the things that really doesn't come through? They have amazing masters or PhDs or undergrad degrees. And to Sandhya's point, and those are fantastic points, and actually they are communication skills. I won't spend more time on that because Sandhya has already touched those points.
Yeah.
One thing is inability to think in first principles. Okay. How you are bombarded with different kind of information, knowledge. How do you combine that and focus on the delivery for industry? And for delivery for industry is very simple 3 things, right? Products, asset generation, and taking the product to the market, right?
Yeah.
And that involves a lot of combinatorial understanding of different parts of science. How do you pull them together? And then IP generation, and it's also how do you do that, right? And that's also ability to go really deeper layers of the technology and writing that and conveying that. Second thing, and as again my pet peeve, is project management, right? And Sandhya does touch upon it. Milestones, time. Ability to adhere to that timeline. Industry, and when I say industry, I really don't mean big industry, whether it is in big, huge multinationals or a startup or a small startup, everybody is working on 2 things, speed and precision, right? And you will have to run with with them. I'll quickly point 3 more. One is understanding data, right? And presenting that data in a concise way. Two, I think Sandhya did mention, I can't remember, but I think she did mention about ability to collaborate, larger team dynamics, smaller team dynamics, So when I say they are in speed and precision, that means that there might be some friction also, right? So ability to communicate, say this is not working out, that is not working out, that I don't see. And then finally, not understanding sensing of the industry itself. So I'll anonymize it. We were interviewing somebody and we said, why have you applied? I want to work for industry. Okay, so can you name 2 industries that are working in this field? And that person couldn't name the company that that interview was happening for, right? So, and then we said, have you heard of this multinational that does work on, say, this? I mean, Sandhya mentioned Moderna, right? Look at Moderna, look at BioNTech. What is that mRNA vaccine platform, right? So curiosity to go deeper, pull together that, and ability to then convey in a concise way is the biggest skill gap, project management and all of that. And just a little bit out of your comfort zone, right? And it's something that I have found. So let me summarize it. Understanding industry trends, project management, and thinking in first principles.
Right. Okay. I guess, wonderful points you both have covered. So my next question would go to Dr. Govil, and I would want to ask that what individuals or institutions or this entire ecosystem can do to kind of make or address these gaps?
I think, like Sandhya said, when we were interviewing some of these students when they came for industrial training program, and we will ask them, why you are doing tissue culture of Brahmi? Because my sir asked me to do so. So, okay, even if your sir asked you to do so, at least you later on, you should have tried to find out. So then in the interview, we are trying to find out, see, Brahmi is vegetatively propagated. So why do you need to do tissue culture? Unless, you are talking about a strain with more bacoside content or something. So they sometimes have no clue. I mean, I'm not blaming the students, but it's also something to do with the ecosystem, like you said, So when we are assigning a project, at least they should try to find out subsequently. The reasoning ability or, that ability is not developing. So students have information, but they can't put that information to use at the appropriate time. So its application of that knowledge is lacking. You ask them that if I have I have substance and I'm giving you, you tell me whether it's DNA, RNA or protein. So all of them have done that spectrophotometric analysis. But they will, I am telling you, not even 5% will give you that answer. And I am talking about, say, interviewing about 3,000 students every year. So although they have studied this, so application of that...
It's the application orientation.
And maybe our evaluation system is faulty. Maybe, we are information based and marks oriented, and nobody's really wondering whether the students have got the reasoning ability. They have really no clue, they are not able to put that, answer. And I think they also do not have ability to ask intelligent, smart questions. See, answers I can find out. There is a lot of information available. So the industry is also perhaps looking for people who can ask smart questions and who can also, give them some value, what is lacking in them. So they are not able to do that. And
but I guess, ma'am, sorry, I would cut here. I really feel that it's not just the problem of the student. It's also the way our system is nurturing the next generation, that they lose this ability to relate things and apply that knowledge.
True.
Right.
That's why I said the whole ecosystem. The teachers are also, because maybe they have to sort of complete the curriculum. They have to do several other things. Everybody is multitasking. They are setting papers, they're evaluating papers, then we have semester systems, too many things. So They are just in a race to finish the curriculum, but whether they have actually been able to deliver that curriculum. And another thing I think we need to really think about is, like Professor Lakhotia has been saying it for 30 years, that there is mushrooming of new courses, and mushrooming of biotechnology courses, and mushrooming of courses like medicinal plants biotechnology and marine biotechnology. And then, the universities, because they think that department is not giving funds for general biotechnology, so let me give aquaculture biotechnology, or let me give marine biotechnology, or fisheries biotechnology, without worrying about what will happen to students. So we must also think what is translation, possibility of that particular course, whether there is any requirement. And then later on, the industry will tell us that these students which you produce do not have the required skill sets and they are unemployable. And then we are very upset, all of us. But I think initial stages, the thought process which needs to go in is not happening. So we need to really stop that.
Yeah, I guess we'll transition. Satya, I guess we will maybe take up the questions now, else we will be running quite late. And in the next section, we will talk about what system can do in order to bridge this gap. So I guess I'll hand it over to Shreya. If there are questions, maybe we'll take it up now.
Thank you, Smita. Yeah, we are running almost 15 minutes behind time. So we will take only one question at this point and we will come back later. And also let me just, I can see that a lot of you are asking about how to fill skill gaps in specific areas such as science communication or entrepreneurship or R&D. And it's really nice to see your interest, but answering this might be beyond the scope of this webinar. But we invite you to stick around till the end of this webinar, where we will be making some announcements that might help you with regards to this. Okay, that being said, here's a question I think that's in front of many people's mind. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, there has arisen a certain gap in the careers in the education of many students over this last year, who they have not been able to work in labs, do experiments. How do you think this will affect their future in research careers or other careers? Satya, would you like to weigh in on this?
Yeah, I think this will take an hour to discuss, So
maybe we can have the 30-second version.
Yeah. So, I grew up in a very remote place called Sambalpur in Odisha. Okay. I don't know which tier it falls into. Tier 3, tier 4, you can name it that. So, of course, equitable access to information about what is going on in the science world, how can they use their science degrees, is important. And let me point out, you mentioned disadvantaged groups. First, our women representation in science, in whether it is academia or board or decision-making panels, that's one, right? We need to see that. And that is happening slowly now. I think it's great. Researchers, as I said, students in tier 2, tier 3, and even I do not think tier 2 or tier 3, even in a metro, if you are growing up in a economically disadvantaged area, like I say, slum, they may not have that access to information also, right? So that's one. And within ethnic minorities, right? Their representation, where they're understanding how can they go, that's one thing. So how do you address that? I was quite enthused to see the NRF, the National Research Foundation now, and I think it has to be a very systemic approach to go in. And I'm talking out of ignorance here, but I'm sure our social scientists, there's a huge area now for our social scientists to see how these things can be addressed for science career, for all of these groups that, because of a variety of societal reasons, are unable to access information and craft or sculpt their careers, right? And I think we must quickly gather information about it, see where are the challenges, and utilize a systemic approach, both at the central level and state level, to really move forward. Here, I would want to make one point, is that we also need to have fellowships. We never have spoken about fellowships here, but my life was transition. Really one of the transitions, as you said, was because I got a summer fellowship in JNCSR summer fellowship in '96 to go and spend time with Veronica, and that just opened my eyes to everything that science could offer to me. And Veronica was, unfortunately, she passed away, but she was an amazing leader who guided me in those, summer months. So a lot of fellowships are very important. Short fellowships to go in and test out. Right? I'll stop there.
Thank you, Satya. Very quickly, Sandhya, can you comment on the COVID-19 side of things? Should students be worried, basically?
It is worrisome. And it's worrisome also because funding, in a sense, is being diverted to do which needs to be address this, this very critical juncture in the planet and all the humans' life on planet. So it is worrisome, but I don't think it's hopeless. And I think that should be very clear. This is what I generally suggest to young people who, are willing to hear this. No, it's not necessary that what Satya said, I got this fellowship and I was able to go to TFR. Research is done in many contexts. In fact, I would encourage you to look at small startups in your local things, even a laboratory which does testing. It's a great place to get your feet wet, to do a few things. You're looking at data, you have to look at data, you have to learn to interpret data. So don't shut those opportunities out. And if it is something local, you have a little bit of family support. You are not struggling, hopefully, as much to put the resources together, do that. Look around you to see how is it. And maybe this is the time when you can say, okay, if not research, what else will I be interested in? Can I find something locally where I am staying to go and try something else? And don't shut that door out. I know a few people who have done that and really found it through those approaches a calling in life, and I look at them and I'm proud to know them. So because they took the path not taken. And yet there are others who say, okay, let me see locally what happens and let me set this up and do that. But having said all of that, for the number of students who want to get research opportunities, there just aren't enough research places in the country to give them opportunities. And that is the sad fact. And I think as a community, we need to acknowledge it and find ways to address it. And I'm not sure what is the best way to address it, but each research lab in one institution cannot take 10 undergrad or master's students to train them for 3 months. It's just not even feasible. And yet think about the cancerous proliferation of the undergrad and master's degrees in our ecosystem. So it's not hopeless. Look locally. That's my message.
Yes. Thank you, Sandhya. And I guess we're going to talk about the ecosystem and the institution in our next section. And Sandhya, over to you. Sorry, Smita, over to you for that.
We are all S's here.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Shreya. I guess the next question, maybe I'm going to kind of condense two questions into one and ask Dr. Govil, Sandhya, and Satya to comment on that. And this is about, the need of a professional career development cell in our institutions. We don't have those. So what do you all think that the role that this professional career development cell can play? That's my question one. And second would be role mentors and teachers can play alongside these career development cells as well. So Dr. Govil? Again, I would request if each one of you can just take 2 minutes and.
I think it is very important to have these career development cells. Some of the institutes have an abridged version of this, which is like placement cell in IITs and few other institutions. But that perhaps works well for engineering, where number of students is huge. With biotechnology courses, where number of students is 30 to 40 maximum in a university or institute, we struggle. We struggled throughout, and we've asked a lot of companies whether they would be willing to come for campus interviews, and then they say that it is not economically viable for them to come for such a small number of students. And another problem we also faced was students were not interested in jobs in industry. Sometimes they were offered jobs by personnel who came for interviews, and the students right away rejected, marketing job nahi karenge sir. So that is another side, perhaps the parental pressure or family pressure, and at times, not knowing what the industries do. So when they come for industrial training interviews, like Satya was saying, you ask them 5 companies, they don't know. And to our pleasant surprise, everybody wanted to go to Biocon. But when we asked, where is Biocon? No clue. What does Biocon do? So they have no idea. So that information, they don't do that research. They're very passive. So that.
No, I understand, ma'am. Sorry, again, but my question is more like, what the career development cell can do in order to bridge this gap.
They can create resources, they can tell them what are different career options. For each career options, who are the potential employers, what are the key skills required, and what educational qualifications and what trainings can they do, what assignments, voluntary assignments, projects, internships, where are those available, if any fellowships are available. So if that kind of resource is created, that would be extremely useful. And I think students should also help. Students can form small groups. They can divide that I will collect information on agriculture biotechnology, and somebody will do on pharma biotechnology, and another person can collect information on industrial biotechnology or marine biotechnology. So that way, that information will be collected in a manner which will also be palatable to the students. They can easily digest that information because it has been created by them.
So you are basically saying that it's a joint effort, one from the career cell, plus even students themselves can join hands.
They should actively participate. They should actively, because otherwise, when you ask them, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? They say, wherever you place. We have in fact asked them that, I don't know you, you are pharma biotechnology student. I may put you in Monsanto. So how do you know what you want to do and where you want to do? And suppose you give them an offer, you say that you go to Reddy's lab, they say Hyderabad nahi ja sakte hain. So they have so many restrictions. So then, they should try to reduce that I only want to go to NCR region. So they should only look for companies in NCR region. Then they can't say that I will go to Biocons or I will only go to Ranbaxy and I will not go to Panacea. So we cannot be so choosy also. I think they need to understand that company is not a training institute. So they are there where they are. So if I need to take the training, I must go there.
Right. Sandhya?
Okay, so I thought that typically colleges and university have career development cells. I'm more familiar with, research institutions. I absolutely think these places need to have a career development cell. It has value. It allows the student to have exposure. It gives you access to a network, which will have to be built up over time. Perhaps an opportunity, and even I've even gone so far to think about it. You've sent your synopsis, you're writing your thesis, or you've finished your thesis and you have a few months before your comments come. Perfect time to go and do an internship. This is also the place where you set up what I call peer mentoring setup, where you try to tap into senior students speaking to younger colleagues, right? Because often when you're sitting in a desk, you're a PI or someone who has achieved some position, there is that hesitation to speak openly. And that's a barrier which is very, very difficult to overcome. But between peers, a peer who has sort of maybe taken part of the journey and has explored some things, start that process early, that nucleation process early. I've always found that these are things which can assist. Of course, the ownership in the end rests with the student, but this is how I see the career development cell in research institutions as being a catalyst to get people thinking about where they need to go and providing and collating opportunities.
Yeah, so it's basically the platform. These cells can provide the platform where networking can happen and these ideas can be
some
seeded.
Beginnings of mentoring. I think, I really think mentoring has to move outside a structured framework, and having these kinds of avenues can help, especially if we can tap into a peer network.
Right. So Satya, can you add on to the last point that Sandhya made about mentors and the role your educator or even, let's say, your family members or mentors can play? It need not be a structured program, but if you can talk about the role that these people can play in career development, that would be wonderful.
Right. I think there is no denying fact what a mentor can do. And mentor doesn't mean, and I agree with what Sandhya said, it doesn't mean just somebody with a gray hair, who's done it and seen it all. It can be your peer group. It can be a couple of years ahead of you people. I do not know why placement cells, or whatever you call it, do not utilize the humongous number of alumni who have gone and done everything in if you look at IISc, I keep coming back to the startups I work with, right? So Pandorum and Saigenika, Tuhin Bhaumik, Arun Chandru, and Nusrat Sangamitra, all of them are PhDs from IISc. Right, and they do a lot of good science, amazing science in their startup, right? So getting into a very process-driven alumni network, bring them on board. As I say in Hindi में, आंखों देखा हाल बताइए, जब आप सुनते हैं किसी से ना, ऐसा मैं after I finished my PhD, फिर मैं वहाँ गई, यहाँ गई, या ये काम किया, फिर छोड़ दिया, then all that makes real sense to the audience who is in the third year, second year, final year PhDs submitted, and looking at the light at the end of the tunnel, right? And so this is one thing. So a combination of structured process by our placement cells, and a bit of a randomness there as well. You bring them on for chai, coffee, and have that conversation done. And this cannot be, and I underline this, Mita, this cannot be the last 6 months. Okay, it has to start from the very start of the undergrad, postgrad, PhD, postdoc programs, right? And I think, so that's number two. Sorry to bring this onto the table. I think there is a cultural mindset also, right? And it's great to see Sandhya here, supporting her students. And I've spoken to one who just finished an amazing PhD and has started an amazing startup in the education sector, right? I think we need more Sandhyas in our academic institution who can give that push. And culturally, I'll tell you, अच्छा, तो आप PhD खत्म करके postdoc नहीं जाओगे, then okay, it's a failure, right? I mean, so that mindset that you want to go and try out different things, because PhD, undergrad, postgrad are training grounds, right? Think about it. I do not know. One of the person who writes in Times of India, whose movie was made through 3 Idiots, he's an engineer by training, right? हमने कभी पूछा कि आप इंजीनियरिंग मैकेनिकल में किया तो आप अभी क्यों 3 Idiots लिख रहे हो? Right? So that whole thing, that you spent 5 years studying this molecule, getting into this cell, and now you are going to go and teach that, it's like, okay, you haven't done well in your life then, right? So that mentality, that second-class citizenship thinking about somebody who wants to help out. And this is where, I think our faculty have to step in and say, guys, And third point, sorry, do not by any point think that stepping out of academia is an easy career. And I have experience from the startup world. So when I see my CEOs and co-founders really hardworking, 18 hours a day, bashing their head against the walls, all of that is happening, right? It is not an easy thing to step out of academia. It's not a, pinky rosy world where you only work for 3 hours and you're done, right? Yeah. So that's also, so have respect for that too, right? Have an understanding for that too. So mentors, faculty mentors, not just gray hair mentors, but your alumni network, somebody who has just finished his or her PhD and gone and worked in a big company or a small company, bring them in, talk to them, and do haat se taali bajti hai, right? So the students also have to, I just got 2 emails day before yesterday from people who had met me saying that, can I get your half an hour to discuss about my career? Okay, I have not met them in 10 years. They met somewhere in a conference or somewhere to me. So pay it forward, right? And pay it forward, whether it is you, me, Sandhya, Jile, Shreya, Dr. Govel, everybody is paying it forward, right? Give that half an hour to time to students, anybody who wants to listen and just brainstorm with you.
Yeah, I guess I would just want to add this word networking, which is again very key to success. So with that, Shreya, I would hand it over to you. If there are questions, maybe we take it up and then we move to the last section.
Thank you, Smita.
But he said something so important, and as an academic scientist, I want to wholeheartedly say this. I feel that the academic community, I don't mean specific individuals, but as a collective, have a strong bias towards academic careers. That should change. In fact, majority of PhD students don't go to academic careers. Yeah. And there are bloody interesting things out there to do, and you should enjoy them. And you should explore that and respect the people who choose those paths, because that's not easy either. When I heard my own student, Parul, he talked about, I just said, well, if you'd done a postdoc, it would have been easier. But she said, no, Sandhya, I want to make an impact. And this is the way I want to make an impact. And, you have to respect that. And I think this is the change that Indian academia, be they teachers in BSc or MSc, or people who are doing research and training students in research masters or in PhD programs or postdoctoral fellowships, they need to make that change. And I think we should outright admit that. I've just seen it so many times, and it's very, very frustrating.
Yeah, no, I guess that's a real strong point, Sandhya, that you have made. Again, boils down to the mindset change, and each one of us must strive to bring that change. Okay, over to you, Shreya.
Yeah, and I think that actually feeds into one of the questions that has come in. There are a few educators in our audience today, and they're asking what they can do to help their students in navigating this. So having that mindset, I guess, is a very important first step. And is there anything else that educators should keep in mind when they are helping their students navigate their careers? So Dr. Govil, I think I'll...
Yeah, I think teachers, one thing, like Sandhya said, respect other professions. Another thing is share information, encourage students to explore other careers, talk to other people, like Smita was saying, network. So maybe, talk to your seniors who are in some companies or in science communication or in science policy or in IPR. So go and talk to those people, understand from them what they do and how they approach that career, and whether they faced any challenges and how they overcome those challenges. So then, they will have first-hand information. And it will be easy for them to transition to those careers then. So I think that will really help them assess their own interests also. And of course, not being judged, like being branded as second grade. So somebody who's not following herd mentality and not going to academics is lower down the rung. So that needs to, that comparison also. If I have gone to science policy or you have gone to science communication, doesn't mean that this work is not important. So every person is doing his or her own bit. So excelling in your own sphere, that is important. So let us not compare people in different professions, and each one is important for the whole ecosystem's growth. So I think that would really help.
Yeah. And I guess resources that sort of compile this information, or that can make it easy for educators as well to gain the information themselves so that they can pass it on to their students.
And maybe they can also arrange some seminars and symposia by some of these professionals in different fields, like, career counseling workshops, which you are doing as a India Bioscience, but individual universities can also do it, and maybe they can have local entrepreneurs, some local startups, somebody who's gone to some funding agency, or somebody who's gone to a newspaper, maybe Hindu, as a science journalist, or gone to Science or Nature as an editor. So have those people, and then the students will have a flavor and feel of that area, and then they can decide for themselves.
Yeah. And we have a comment here from Poonam, who says that one component that's often missing in this discussion is about earning potential in different careers, whether they be academic and especially non-academic careers. And it's hard to find such information about growth trajectories, negotiations, salaries. And do you feel this is a gap that professional development cells might fill, or is there some way institutions or the ecosystem can help here to there? So, Sandhya, would you like to comment?
Yes, I can comment. I think that this is the hardest piece of information to actually get, and I think it's very uneven. So if you're a science communicator, if you get hired by an institution, then of course you have that institution and a government scale salary that comes with it, which will give you a living wage. But if you're freelancing, can you do that? How long can you do that? Is that going to float your boat? Is unclear, because each person is not necessarily going to put out the money to, or you're not going to get as many jobs. I think this is where a career development cell can help, because, you can, without a person who heads that cell can honestly ask without having skin in the game, just give me the information, because if you have skin in the game, it's uncomfortable and awkward to have that conversation, although very important too. So if you're doing an information interview with a person, don't hesitate to ask that question. Maybe keep it to the end, but don't hesitate. I can tell you, for the people who from my lab who have gone on to startups and started their own thing, hard early years. And it's not at all clear to me that they can manage it without tremendous family support, which gives them, at least a place to stay rent free, and childcare in one case, without paying for it. So those are real and important questions, but that's where the career development cell can fit. But, other people over here are probably better at giving information as to really what can you expect.
Yeah, I think this is a real problem. When I remember when last fellowships were increased, when Dr. Vijay Raghavan was Secretary DPT. And then, when we used to go for these interviews, the industries were very upset. That at least if the fellowship is 30,000 plus HRA, then that is the minimum expectation of a student when he or she goes for a job. So they were not willing to pay well, and they were willing to take, instead of taking maybe a biotechnology student, they will take perhaps a general botany student or zoology student and do some on-campus training and pay them less. So that has been a problem all through, and we have been negotiating with industries, that if you don't pay well, then how do you expect to hire good people? So that, and the information about career trajectory and how they grow and how much they will grow, because normally these informations are kept as secret or confidential. Even your colleagues don't know how much you are making. That kind of information is never divulged by the company. So that will be difficult to share. Maybe only informational interviews with experts in that particular industry could help. I heard some core facility interviews, then the people were saying that you can become from this level to core facility manager. I mean, 4 levels you have to cross. But how much you make, that was still not coming. But I mean, at least you know that you have possibilities of growth. I think that information is really crucial because when I joined DST, for example, I mean, I saw Dr. Manju Sharma, we all saw that from scientific officer, SSO1, she became director in 12 years. I mean, that is the kind of growth we were looking for ourselves, that if so-and-so has become advisor, then maybe we will also become. So that information is really crucial for to attract students. So if industries want to attract, I think they need to share this information also.
I guess this information is not obviously available publicly, and the more we move towards a more open sharing of information, it might get easier for students to make these choices. And we will move on to the next section now. And before that, there's this one comment from Purnima who was asking if links to career development centers be posted on India Bioscience, and if these links can be a common place where people can go to find this information. And I just wanted to comment that sounds like a really interesting idea, and maybe we can discuss this later internally and think about it. So thank you. Over to you, Smita.
Okay. So the last segment, twists and turns in the road. I guess this is something we all face, we all worry about. And before we get into it, I would say that this really requires a lot of courage and confidence to, deal with these twists and turns, which are inevitable. So maybe I would want to ask again, each of the panelists, Satya, Sandhya, and Dr. Govind, that when things don't go according to the plan that you have, let's say, written down in your journal, what are the strategies that one should have? Again, if you all can stick to just one point each, that when things don't go according to plan, what would be your strategy? Satya, Sandhya, you are going first.
Yes, if that's okay.
Yes, yeah, please.
Yeah.
Please.
So I would say that I actually think failure is not a bad thing, because it is an inflection point, and failure teaches you something about yourself and tells you that there are situations that are non-ideal for you, and those are not things that you'll not look for earlier on. And when you face failure, the first and foremost thing that I would do is do an assessment. Do an assessment to see where you're at and what do you want to do next. Do you want to continue in the same path and look for other opportunities, or do you want to sort of try a different environment? And the nature of failure is different at different stages. So if you fail in early stages of your career, your BSc or your MSc, it's usually exams or not getting opportunities or internships that go poorly. If it's doing your PhD, it's failure of techniques, your ideas, your papers not getting accepted easily, or difficulty in working with your PI or peers. As you go up the ladder, when you fail, the consequences are bigger. They're not only for you and the money, food you put on your table, it's for your family, it's for your team, and you're going to face this. So I think what helps really, for me, what I have seen is, and what helps students as well, I've seen, is the ability to set aside, step away, and do an assessment of who you are, what you want from your career. And that has a tremendous clarifying power, because it gives you a blueprint to move forward. And that's what you should spend your time developing, that blueprint. And I say this, having had a large number of failures in my life, not one or two.
Satya, what's your take?
Oh, yeah, I think completely endorse what Sandhya said. Each of us is a large mix of failure and some success that we do. And in today's world, I'll just reflect back on this thing. Our lived lives on Facebooks and LinkedIn are not the real lives. Okay, so that goes a lot of hardship, failure. I bunked my +2 board exam in 1991. Okay, I mean, to Sandhya's point, right? I took it this next year, but it was an early failure at that time, and I recovered from it. And 20 years now, I wear it as a badge of honor, right? so, or like I told, so what do you do when things don't? And you titled it very nicely. You said twists and turns in the road, and what happens if there is a failure. And failure invariably happens. By statistics, it's just you it will happen. So what do you need to do? First is that please take care of yourself.
Yeah.
All right, that's the most important thing. That failure is not you, it's just fail for a variety of reasons. Step back, have an inner circle, right? Who are the people who reach out to talk? I think that's the most important thing. And here again, going back to mentor, peer group, inner circle, these are very important. And building resilience, right? And that's again key. And it's not an easy thing to build resilience. It's easy for me or anybody here on the table to say build resilience, but when one is going through that emotional turmoil, then you say, "Ki, chalo aao baitho, build resilience." So have that empathy and compassion, and also that inner circle is so critical. I have people in my inner circle that I just call, and here again mentors, and again it's gray hair, young people, all of them, right? Who keep me sane and quirky at the same time, right? It's important. So build resilience, have an inner circle. Importantly, I think Sandhya did mention about assessment, and the outcome of that assessment is important. So once dust has settled, you have paused, you thought about it. One important thing, elephant in the room, is how do I decouple from that path, right? So decoupling is because path dependencies happen. So you are in your second year, in your second postdoc, you spend 15 years, and then you realize, oh God, you know what, this is not happening, right? So what do we do next? And so that decoupling is, it's lots of strong bonds and weak bonds that need to be cut, right? You need to put some, cleavage enzymes there and then all of that. So the decoupling is very important.
Yeah.
There, again, reaching out to a network of people, understanding. I think Shreya mentioned, how do I go and look for paths? And LinkedIn is there. Looked at career paths. Glassdoor is there. Looked at what people are talking about, pay scales. They will give you a range, right? And so important to decouple and know when to decouple. Critical. And by the way, when you step back and, a lot of people have second careers. I told about Arthur Conan Doyle of Sherlock Holmes. A lot of people have second careers, and it's important to think that our lives are actually a mix of 1, 2, 3 careers at the same time, right? Even Sandhya, I can, I'll tell, she will take more administrative roles and this. And fingers crossed, hopefully, DBT secretary one day, right? So, and we have seen in our life in the last 20, 30 years of the leaders that we have worked for, they have had second careers, right? So it's important to note that factor. And here I've been blessed with mentors. I think you just have to find people who can tolerate your quirkiness.
Okay. This really covers up very well the question that I had asked. Dr. Govil, maybe 1 minute, if you can sum up.
Yeah, I think, all of us have had our shares of failures, and maybe we emerged stronger after each failure because you basically, introspect and learn from your mistakes. I mean, at least don't repeat the same mistakes.
Yeah.
So it should be a learning experience, and then I mean, all of us are able to overcome with the help of our colleagues and mentors, and of course, family support is also very important, because if you have a strong family, I mean, then you can manage. I mean, you can sort of have a bumpy ride and still succeed. So I think if you don't have failures, you will be very fragile. So with each failure, everybody emerges stronger. People who do not face any failure will not be, I mean, ultimately be able to face failures. So it is very important to have maybe failures also in life. So, and learn from them.
No, well said. I guess. So what I have gathered is that failures are again very inevitable part of this journey. Uh, it's just that don't lose hope. Have that inner circle. Have your network, and deal with it. And for that, you need resilience. You need courage. You need confidence. Okay. Wonderful. So Shreya, I hand it over to you for questions that would have come from the audience.
Thank you, Smita. Yeah, before I ask the question, I want to just read out a few of the comments that our participants have put in. So one participant says academic careers need years of work, years worth of work towards our passion or our dream. And what you do if you finally, after you land there, you do not enjoy it? Then another participant says, I constantly had a feeling that I'm missing something and I end up in anxiety due to it. Then a third participant says that midway through my PhD, I'm realizing that although I am interested in science, maybe research on a specific topic for long is not for me. So there are these conditions where people start somewhere with a certain vision and upon reaching there, they find that it is probably not what is going to serve them in the future. And I guess the question here can be summed up by Sneha here has asked, how can we get faith in such an uncertain path in our career, and what can we do basically? So I guess we will maybe hear, since this is the last question, we will hear for 1 minute from each of our speakers, and we can use that to sum up this session. So Dr. Govil, would you like to go first?
Thank you, Shreya. I think the moment you realize that this is not cut out for you, I think don't hesitate to take a about turn or U-turn, because if you are on a wrong path, you will be a misfit, you will not be doing good to yourself, and you will not be doing good to the organization where you may land in a job. So please do not do something which doesn't interest you. So take a U-turn and then, pursue your passion. If you've realized, otherwise take professional help, maybe go to a career counselor who will help. There are certain psychometric tests, then they will do those tests and help you identify your strengths and weaknesses and likes and dislikes, so that you have an objective analysis and objective and impassionate and third party assessment, because sometimes I feel that students also do not know, to say their own strengths. They say, I'm very hardworking, committed, dedicated, that kind of general statement. So we try to say that, are you good in some technique? Suppose you are very good in tissue culture, you don't get contamination, or somebody is good in section cutting, or somebody is good in slides, or somebody is good in certain other things, spectrophotometry. So at least those professional counselors would help you evaluate your own strengths. And then you will be doing an objective assessment. And I mean, if you've missed 2-3 years, it's all right. Rather than spending 30-40 years in a career which doesn't interest you, and it doesn't do any good to anybody else also. So you will be a depressed soul, and I mean, everybody around you will also be depressed. So please don't do that.
Yes,
There are
thank you
ample
so much.
opportunities elsewhere.
Yeah. And Satya, would you like to add to that in 1 minute?
1 minute starting now, is it? Okay. Let me, I think I can only draw upon from my experience, my own life, right? I think 2006, around this time, and also I'll have to say, this is being recorded, but that's okay. I suffer from a chronic health condition for the last 20 years that made me take steroids over the last 20 years, right? I said I'm inching towards 50, a little bit away, but okay, I'm 46 now, right? So 2006, I finished my PhD. I'm in King's College on a 3-year, I can't remember whether IndiaBioscience or MRC postdoc. 6 months into the postdoc, it was Easter time. I had, I think, some mouse embryos in my fridge in ethanol that I had brought over during Easter time so that I could take them back. I got up and I was married at the time, and I said, I want to do something different. I remember that day very crystal clear. It's not that the penny dropped that day, it must have been building up to it. And then I've struggled with health ever since 2001. And so that's it. So what did I do after that? I like initially I thought, let me do this thing. Then I stepped back and spoke to people. And then at 2007, I took a year out because of health. And 2007, I entered Cambridge University to study policy and manufacturing and be part of the engineering department, their business school and all of that. And that was, with my science degree, and I had fantastic support from East Anglia, where I did my PhD at King's. I was, and then when I entered Cambridge, all these people really kind of nucleated around me and started guiding me, and serendipity started happening. And I was working in the engineering school, in the Just Business School. I met Kiran Majumdar-Shaw, Professor Vijay Chandru. They pulled me into India. Then I met Dr. Bhan. He pulled me into BIRAC. And continuously there's been somehow more than passion dropping into my life. It's amazing people who have dropped into my lives, right? And I value that a lot. I think that's when I really hold on to people who have given me time and have been compassionate to my journey. So that's the most important thing for me.
Yeah. So that initial period you took for introspection, and I guess then the people who surrounded you, they really made a difference. Sandhya, would you like to
They were naysayers that time as well. Oh, policy karoge, kaun jata hai? This is 2006. This is not 2021.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of hard to top when people, talk about their personal journey. But I usually don't, let me sort of say a couple of things which might be helpful, specifically what the students said. They've sort of embarked upon the research career, taking what is, many people do, and they have found that it doesn't sort of resonate with them. And if it doesn't, I think I agree. You should look to see if you can get an intermediate degree. So if you're an integrated PhD student, can you have an exit master's? Don't leave because you're not succeeding at it. Because this is something which I often tell my students, make a positive choice. Try to think of something that you think you will like. Use the time when you figure out that this is not something you really enjoy to find something you like. Make a positive choice, because then you carry with you a sense of positivity. You think of, okay, I am on a path where I'm not running away from something, right? Because you don't carry then a burden of feeling, maybe I could have done it this differently. And I think that's a very important thing that young people should feel. They shouldn't feel that somehow, it didn't work out and you carry this little chip on your soul, really, not on your shoulder, but on your soul, which always comes out. And I've seen too many young people, too many of people who studied with me feel that way. So I would think that that's very important. So when you figured something out, try to work out a direction that you would like to try. Have an honest conversation with the person you work with and find a path. Failure is inevitable. You have seen Satya share several of his struggles, and all of us, whether we share them or not, have had more than our fair share of just failing in not getting opportunities, and opportunities didn't pan out after you joined them, or having health issues, or having family struggles, and there are women in science issues that you deal with. But really what sort of takes you forward is this fact that, okay, let me take a step back. Let me look at, do I still like what I'm doing? Do I still want to continue to do that? If there are parts in every job, no matter where you go, there are going to be parts that you don't like. You just don't like. If you ask me, I'm an academic, I love research, I love science. I mean, I think any person who has spent any time with me professionally knows that I love science, immense curiosity. It doesn't matter if it's Mars or, somebody's simulation or my own work. I just love science. But do I enjoy writing utilization certificates and doing management and, doing all the paperwork? No, I detest it. I utterly detest it. Can I do it well? Yes, but I detest it. So every job has something which you don't like. So you have to ask yourself, is there enough there that you like and enjoy? That's very important, because no matter what you do, there will be things which you don't like. But those things which you don't like should not be deal breakers. So just take that pause, think about it, try to see what can you get out of it, and don't try to work out a positive choice direction, which sort of gives you that little buoyancy. Say, I'm going to try something new. I know there'll be struggles, but that's what I would like to try. And I generally find my students who move in that direction, take that approach, have a better sense of self-worth. And I really want our young people to have that, a better sense of self-worth. No little injuries to their soul. So 50 years down the road, they say, oh, that was just a turn in my career, not something that, oh my God, that was, I felt I was a failure and I'm trying to sort of talk myself through that it really wasn't. No, it shouldn't. It's just something that you
Thank you so much, Sandhya. And I guess before we move to announcements, I'll hand the floor back to Smita to just sum up quickly.
Yes, no, very quickly, Shreya. I guess I would want to. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
I guess I would want to thank all the panelists, Satya, Sandhya, Dr. Govil, for this really wonderful, engaging conversation. We really need to have more such conversations around in order to, bring that mindset change that we have spoken about. And I guess to sum up, all I would like to say is that career is a long journey. Enjoy. First place, choose a path which you can align yourself to. Get onto that path, enjoy that journey, but have that confidence, courage to take that turn if you feel that you need to. Never shy of that. And that's something I guess each one of us have also done in our personal trajectories as well. Few other things to keep in mind that each panelist has echoed is: have a network, have your inner circles, be aware of what's happening outside. That's again very critical. Don't remain just in your own bubble or in your own shell. There's a lot happening in the world outside, so remain alert. That's another key message that we have taken. And definitely the system has to do a lot of mindset has to change. Things like career development cell, I really strongly believe that must be part of our academic institutions if you want this whole ecosystem to be very thriving, and if we want this ecosystem to be happy at the end of it. So I guess thanks once again. We hope that we will continue to have more dialogues around this. And to our audience, I hope that you will stay engaged with us. Thank you very much. And over to you, Shreya. There's some key announcements Shreya has to make. So thank you.
Thank you, Smita. Let me quickly share my screen. And thank you to all of our attendees who have been part of us on this journey. We would love to hear your feedback. The link is on your screen and it will also be shared via the chat window. We have developed a lot of resources over the years on IndiaBioscience for facilitating, making this process of navigating one's career easier. And you can find most of these on our website, including this book called Disha, which I invite all of you to check out. This was authored by Dr. Govil, who was with us today, and it provides comprehensive information on a large number of career paths. And also check out our podcast series, India Bio Speaks, where we have interviewed people, professionals from many different science fields, so that you can learn more about the paths that are available to you. And this brings us to a very exciting announcement, which is our next resource, which will be coming out very soon. And this is to address the gap that exists in awareness or knowledge between those who want to move from an academic path to an industry path. And to specifically address this, we are bringing out this e-booklet. This is going to be free to download. And in this, we have conducted interviews with 10 different industry leaders from 5 different fields, and we ask them everything from what their day-to-day life is, to what is needed to transition into the field, to how they overcame the challenges they faced while making this transition. So please follow our social media links, check our website regularly. This is going to be coming out very, very soon. And finally, as Zile mentioned at the very beginning, this is our final session in this webinar, this particular webinar series on crafting your career. And this crafting your career CYC began basically as a Friday morning coffee conversation between Smita, me, and Lakshmi, one of our other team members. And over a period of months, we decided that there was need for a course like this, full professional development resource like this. And we created this course and we started delivering it. We had done career-related workshops before. The first one is in 2017, but the first CYC session happened in Jan 2019 in Faridabad. And after that, we went across the country. We went to Mumbai, Kolkata, Jodhpur, Pune, and a very abridged session in Pune, and then Mohali. And then in 2020, we were planning to have our first session in Trivandrum, and that's when the pandemic, COVID, broke out, and we had to cancel, I guess, our plans for that year. And at that time, we decided to brainstorm, and we came up with this way to keep the spirit of CYC alive, even though we could not visit these places and deliver them in person. And we have had 6 CYC webinars since July last year, and we have had your participation in each of them, and we have been overwhelmed by the feedback that we have received. And at this point, what we really want to know is whether CYC has had an impact on your career, on the people who have attended this, whether you feel better equipped to navigate your careers, whether you know of more resources now. And for this, we would really, really like for you to fill out this short survey. It will take maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes. The link is in your chat window as well as on your screen. And through this feedback, we would like to improve and keep adding to our CYC sessions to make sure that we are really addressing the needs of the community. So with that, thank you everyone. Thank you panelists. Thank you participants. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay engaged, and goodbye for today. Thank you. And I would request all the panelists to stay back for a couple of minutes so that we can take a group photo. And